Wait, what? What do you mean he missed another kick?
Holy shit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Left Side, Strong Side. Very first show on the brand new channel. I'm your host, Chance Ellison, joined by my co-hosts, Jacob London and Mike Deacon. We are here to break down all the action of the NFL Wild Card Weekend. This is where shit starts to get real for a lot of people. And this is a minute occasion for this new channel, so we are not here to do this alone. We do have a very special guest. You know this dude from all over the internet. Very funny comedian and a very good friend of mine. Also, my biological father, Mark Ellis, is in the building tonight. Mark, thank you for joining us, man.
The bloodline is strong. How is my son? You look like you had turned over a new leaf here in 2023. Is it a Peloton? Is it a new weight set? You look like you're getting shredded.
People keep saying that. I have no idea. I just woke up and oh yeah, I just shed a bunch of weight out of nowhere.
It could just be the lighting. I'm not sure, but it is great to be with you, gentlemen, as it always is. And, I mean, come on. It's our favorite time of the year, right? We get to talk about the playoffs. And even if your team isn't in it, you have all this free agency news, all this firing of offensive coordinators and hiring of head coaches that you start to get excited about. So it doesn't matter which of the 32 teams you root for. You always have something to be excited about in January.
Well, speaking of rooting for, Mark, something we like to ask all our guests is we like to ask who is your football team. Now, I feel like it's a pretty well-known fact who you're a fan of, but in case the audience doesn't know, we're going to have you go into it. And in case you don't, we're going to give you a little bit of a hint.
To clarify, you said you would talk about quarterback next week. If you guys are eliminated today by what happens at 4:00, is Sam Howell in consideration?
We can be eliminated.
Look, I have spoken with a number of my mental health gurus about that press conference, and one of the sort of recurring themes is that you have to believe things into existence. And if you go into a game thinking there's a chance you're going to lose, then you're going to lose. And so Ron Rivera did his best to not even think about what would happen if they did lose, because he was so sure we were going to beat the woeful Cleveland Browns, who had nothing to play for. The only saving grace of this last part of the season for the Washington Commanders is that we got to do the same thing to the Dallas Cowboys, who now look like juggernauts after beating up on an old guy. But we beat the crap out of the Cowboys in week 18, and that's really what us Washington fans take into the offseason. That and our glorious new mascot, Commander Tutty, which is just universally beloved.
No. You couldn't even make him Commander. He was Major Tutty.
It was made, well, I believe he's been promoted. There's been some firings recently in D.C., so I think he's moving up the company ladder pretty quick. I think he might be offensive coordinator Tutty by this time next year. I'm not sure.
Head coach, tell you the way this is going. But yeah, let's get into the actual game. Starting with our very first one up, we had the Seahawks taking on the 49ers. I'm going to say this, for Niners fans, this was looking pretty ugly at first. Brock Purdy was playing like a guy who was drafted last in the draft.
This felt to me like a kid who just made the playoffs for the first time and was nervous. That's what it felt like, and I'm not going to kill him over that.
I'm not going to kill him over it, but he didn't look. He wasn't great. He was not.
He looked like a nervous kid in the playoffs, and I'm not
going to kill him either, because I saw the same thing happen a few weeks prior when the Commanders went to San Francisco to play them, because that was a tight game at halftime, and I'm like, oh, we're in this, and then the real 49ers showed up in the second half,
which is exactly what happened this time.
led by their defense. And I think that the defense is so good. That 49ers defense is a buzzsaw, and it galvanizes the offense so well. And I sort of expected, that was the best that the Seahawks could play. And they're going crazy because Jason Myers hits a 50-plus yard field goal going into halftime, and everybody's feeling good. And that's sort of the performance I want if I'm a 49er fan, because I want you to get those playoff reps in and the rust off and the nerves off in the first half of the game against Seattle in the wild card round. And then you show what you're really made of in the second half. That game where they're going to have to face their opponent this weekend, that's a marquee matchup all of a sudden, watching the way those two teams played.
Yes, and secondly, like you talk about the second half, the defense what really sparked that because there was a great strip sack, but I'm not sure who it was. I have to find the name. But yeah, the strip sack Geno Smith, and after that the Niners were unstoppable.
Yep.
I also think I think Mark said it best when it was like that first half, the Seahawks played a perfect game. They were like as close as perfect as the Seahawks could have been in that first half. There was no silly turnovers. There was no mistakes. Whereas in the 49ers, they didn't turn the ball over, but he was making poor throws. He was there were mistakes there. The second half, Seahawks started making mistakes and we saw the blowout. And that's what happened.
This is also an early bid for me, but this game also had my Stonks player of the week, Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, what a game.
Had the most scrimmage yards of anybody who was not a quarterback the entire week, and the dude was on fire, and it just shows how dynamic his offense is when he's on the field.
Yeah.
He's such a weapon to have, and you can forget about him for 5-10 minutes in a game, and then all of a sudden he just rears his ugly head because he's not. They play him as a running back sometimes. He's not an every down back. He's a wide receiver. The 49ers predicate their offense on the running game first and foremost, and then they let Brock Purdy do some of those old-time slants that Joe Montana got famous doing. And you see Deebo Samuel being able to take stuff like that to the house and also run out of the backfield. I mean, the guy's a monster, and this is Deebo time. I mean, I feel like the Niners almost got to the Super Bowl last year. Let's not forget that on the back of Deebo Samuel. Jimmy G's fine. They almost got to a Super Bowl just based on how offensively talented and diverse Deebo's game is.
They're a dropped interception away from a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they probably beat the Bengals. I think they may have actually beaten the Bengals. So
I mean, Joe Burrow might have died in that game.
Yeah, like they're a dropped interception away from making that Super Bowl, and who knows what would have happened.
And this year it's all depth.
It's
all depth on the 49ers. They have so many different they can beat you right now. That offense, just there's no weak spot anywhere on this team. They are solid all around. Right now they are the team to beat at this very moment.
Absolutely.
I think they're the team to beat.
I agree with what you're saying, except the depth scares me at quarterback because unless Jimmy G
one issue.
But here's the thing, seriously, because they just had bad luck with quarterbacks. They lost Trey Lance for the season. Jimmy G might be ready by the championship game, and I don't think that's a tough decision for Kyle Shanahan. I think you ride with Brock Purdy as far as he can take
absolutely.
you. But if he gets hurt, you better hope that you got Jimmy G. Or I don't know, another.
My question is what happens if Brock Purdy gets hurt? Who's the QB then?
I don't know.
If Brock Purdy gets hurt, then that means that God Almighty himself does not want the 49ers to win the Super Bowl.
All right, but yeah.
My question, do you guys think has he done enough to be a starter next year?
I'm not sure. You have to just have him go head to head with Trey Lance.
I think the answer
got a good problem.
It's a good problem to have in the offseason. And then once you get to week one, it just becomes that really weird conundrum because you just have not seen enough tape from Trey Lance. I mean, that game, it was week one. It was in Chicago. It was a downpour.
Starting Brock Purdy week one over Trey Lance would basically mean they would have to admit they screwed up trading 3 first-rounders to get him.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's an expensive trade to get Trey Lance when you have Brock Purdy sitting there. But I mean, Brock Purdy is so, pardon the pun with his last name, attractive because he is on a rookie deal and he's not going to cost you anything for the next few years.
Right.
But given there's a lot of teams who need a quarterback. There are a lot of teams who need a quarterback and who might be willing to give away one of those. But who might be willing to give up a first or a second for Trey Lance? Like they might be willing to give up something because there's 3 in this draft, really, and they're going to go in the first 5 picks. So
they might give up a high draft pick for Trey Lance or Jimmy G or Brock Purdy at this point. Like the 49ers are holding a lot of cards.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated by what the 49ers do in the offseason. What about Geno? Do you think he's done enough to?
I think Geno will come back. I'll sound like a 1-2 year deal. He'll come back.
I think he sounds like a guy who wants to end his career in Seattle. He said as much, and I also feel like he's been around the league long enough to realize that when you have a starting opportunity like what he's been granted, I think that he is going to be a team player when it comes to salary cap and when it comes to fitting pieces in there where he's not going to be demanding top tier, even second tier money. I think that if he gets a $22 million contract a year, I think that he's going to be happy with that. I think the Seahawks be thrilled with that. And the Seahawks could build something with that. I don't think Pete Carroll's done making noise in the NFL.
Interesting scenario for the Seahawks, I think. There's one name at quarterback coming out of college that not going to go in the first round, but as a Seahawks is a team to look for, Stetson Bennett.
Oh, Stetson Bennett?
That's not a bad.
He just
won a championship. It's going to be a 3. It's going to be.
I mean, he's not going to get drafted. I feel like he feels like a Raiders signing. Stetson to me feels like a Raiders signing.
Stetson Bennett is such a great collegiate story. It's so hard to evaluate him because Georgia is basically a professional football team the last 2 years. And my other issue with Stetson Bennett is you guys are movie fans. I cannot separate him from the guy at the beginning of Ghostbusters who's going through that electrolysis next to the beautiful woman that Peter Venkman's hitting on. He's the other guy. They're the same. Put them up next to each other. It's the same human being.
Before we move on to the next game, I do want to give a quick shout out to Ken Knapsack, who is in the chat currently. Ken, thanks for watching. And Seahawks put up a better fight than I thought you would. So props to you. Put up a better season than I think anybody thought you would.
Oh, absolutely.
Nothing to hang your hats on.
You know, it's so funny when you look back on opening week, the Monday night game when the entire stadium's chanting Geno, Geno. And it's like, well, that's cute for tonight. They beat the Broncos. The Broncos are going to go on. The Broncos will get this right. They'll right the ship by week 3. And the Seahawks are just going to be down the tubes because the NFC West is so tough. And it just shows how little all of us know. I mean, that really was. It's a shock.
A little faith in Geno.
And in the end, the Seahawks still managed to get a top 5 pick.
I was about to say this. They were expected to be a top 5 pick, and they got one anyway, but not how we expected.
Not from them. Up next, we're talking about a game that was very clear-cut our upset of the week. It was also our game of the week, based on voting. And it's the Chargers versus the Jaguars. Let me say this first and foremost. It is shocking to me that Trevor Lawrence is not going to the Brady Award for any of us, given the fact that he threw 4 picks in the first half.
No.
3 in the first quarter.
This is the way the games. It's the way most of the games went this past weekend anyway, not last night notwithstanding, where you had the home team that looked a little more rattled in the first half. They looked a little more nervous, and obviously Minnesota wasn't able to overcome that, but the Chargers being who they are, and Jacob, again, I'm sorry to have to just expound upon this a little more. I don't like to tout my Nostradamus abilities often, but I think a lot of folks like me, I tweeted when it was 24-0, I think, that no Charger fan is comfortable right now. And
Taylor wasn't.
They weren't.
Taylor wasn't. The entire time we were sitting on the couch, she was just sitting there going, I will not be comfortable until it's 50-0 with 5 seconds left. It was just, no, I'm not comfortable right now whatsoever. And look, that second half was horrific.
Yeah, this game was literally a tale of 2 halves.
Yep.
First half, Chargers absolutely dominated. Went out to a 27-0 lead. The defense was suffocating. Trevor Lawrence, although a few picks were not his fault, was just throwing these sky balls that just one arm in a dream, trying to do something, and just kept getting picked off. He was one pick away from Peterman status. He was that close. But then the second half happened.
Asante Samuel was on pace to be the Stonks player of the week for a minute there.
3 picks in the first half. First corner in the modern day playoffs to do that. Here's where things went wrong for the Chargers. Biggest problem on their part was their complete lack of a running game. Because when you can't run the ball efficiently, you can't control the clock.
Which is so weird when you've got Austin Eckler. They have Austin Eckler and they just were not able to run the ball, despite the fact that he's been fantastic for that. He's been their best player for the last 5 weeks. It's just, I don't get it.
And if your running game is that shut down by the Jags, who do have a good run defense, late in the season they've showed it, then you think that Staley and Herbert would be able to put together a game plan where you're not just chucking it deep. And I know the kid's got a missile for an arm, but I mean, can we maybe just West Coast this a little bit and take some time off the clock? Other teams have been able to do that in the passing game. I know you'd prefer the running game as a classic NFL playoff game fan that I am would, but I mean, it seems like a complete and utter collapse, but you could smell it coming even at the end of the first half when the Jags were able to manage a touchdown. When they got that touchdown right before half, I think the rest of the stadium breathed a collective sigh of relief. And then at halftime, whoever had those pool suites were jumping in there doing cannonballs and just ready for an epic comeback, which is what we ended up getting. It was a crazy game, but given the participants involved, it wasn't nuts.
Yeah. The Jags were able to just come back, roar back with their offense. Trevor Lawrence had an excellent second half of this game. Like,
phenomenal.
if you want to make him stonks for the second half of the game, I completely understand. But just the second half.
Are you allowed to go stonks for just one half?
I mean, I'll allow it.
He was fantastic in the second half. I'm not gonna lie, that he was absolutely brilliant. I think, look, the Chargers made the right decision getting rid of Lombardi this week. I think that had to happen after that game. Someone had to get the blame for this game. I thought it would be Staley. I'm surprised it wasn't personally, but
you needed a fall guy. Okay, I've been watching the new season of Jack Ryan, and if politics teaches you one thing, you need a fall guy at all times. And
someone had to take the blame for this. There was going to be someone who was on the chopping block. You don't lose this game the way they did without someone taking the blame. And
I think that's the right call, to be honest. And as much as I may not agree with a lot of Staley's decision making, I mean, I think last year, playing to win that game and in essence getting yourself out of the playoffs in the process is a fireable enough offense. But I don't like advocating for people's jobs. Somebody had to be out of the building after that collapse, and you can't tell me that. I know there's rules that the league has when you can talk to head coaching candidates. You cannot tell me the Chargers don't have some sort of back channel to a guy named Peyton, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, if we can him, you want to come in for an interview?" There's a lot to be seen with this offseason, but I feel like Lombardi was the guy, and Staley will be back now.
I wanted to bring up one thing. The true not stonks individual of the week was not on the field. Not on the field, wasn't even in the stadium. He was on DraftKings and put down a $1.4 million bet on the Chargers when they were up 27-0. And he was only going to win $11,000 on this and wound up losing the bet.
Whoa!
Yeah, that was an insane thing. I'm just like,
hey, I'm going to guarantee that I get myself $11,000.
Even Calvin Ridley wouldn't bet on that.
Nah.
I'm crossing my fingers it's that mattress guy from Houston who has all the money in the world.
Mattress back.
Oh man.
It like the Peyton thing is I honestly think it was we're not going to pay him the $22 million that the Broncos will. Like, I think that could end up being the thing that it comes down to, that the Chargers are notoriously cheap. They're not going to pay a coach when Herbert's probably getting a 180, 190.
And from that team, like if I'm Justin Herbert right now, I'm saying, like, I don't want 50-year option picked up. I've seen withouts, saw with Rivers. Get me the hell out of here.
I mean, look, if I'm Herbert, I want that. I don't know.
I will not play here.
If I'm
it's hard to say no to $190 million.
But like another team will give him that. Like another team will give him that money.
Again, the two fellows on the lower side of the screen here would be happy to pay Justin Herbert that and then some. But I also think Justin Herbert, don't make a decision right away. It's been raining in Los Angeles nonstop the last 5 weeks. Let the sunshine come out. Remember why you enjoy being in Southern California, not Oregon anymore. Staley, he's made a couple real bonehead decisions this season, compounded with the playoff gaffe last year. But I still think he's got a lot of potential as a head coach. So I don't think like the sky is falling if you retain Staley for next year. But I think that is going to be a lot of pressure on the backs of him, on the back of Herbert. If that doesn't work next year, then you're probably looking at a lot of changes in that building.
Yeah.
But with this game,
The building that they're renting, by the way.
They're renting.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are renting.
Yeah.
They don't own it. With this game losing a game despite being up 27 points, losing a game despite actually never losing the lead in regulation. Look back, the Jacks never actually held the lead in regulation.
Yeah.
What wins out above all else? Vintage chargering.
You can't
Up
shake
next,
it.
moving on to our Sunday slate. First up, we had the Dolphins versus the Bills. The game I think we all thought would have been the biggest blowout of the weekend.
This was painful.
Instead, it ended up giving Jacob like at least 5 heart attacks.
Oh, absolutely. I had like 5 of them watching this game. Look, I love Josh Allen. I'm really petrified for next week. I am petrified for next week because he got to stop making these silly mistakes. These are really starting to hurt. And I know he can back them up, and I know that he can he's
The interesting thing with this game is the fact that the Bills' offense is what kept the Dolphins in the game.
Yeah,
True.
Allen just kept chucking up these like almost late in his career Favrean throws that are just baffling. And you're like, what are you doing, dude? And this was weird because of all the home teams, the Bills were the one that even in the second half, they still looked a little out of sorts and a little confused. Yeah. I'm going to give them a pass, though. I think Jacob should sleep easy this week simply because everything that organization has been through off the field the last couple of weeks. I think that a lot of that factors into it. You cannot run through an entire playoffs on emotion. You can win a game field on emotion. And we saw that in beautiful form last week in Buffalo. Yeah. And I thought that was it was just a beautiful example of a city coming together and really a community coming together to rally around DeMar Hamlin. If you look at the Bills going forward, I think that this was the best thing that could have happened to them is being a little sweaty courtesy of Skylar Thompson and that Dolphins offense, because they're going to have a tough week of practice. They're going to have a good week of reps. And I think that they're going to, I think they beat the Bengals. I do. I think that there is some pixie dust with Joe Burrow and that organization all of a sudden, but I don't think it's enough to beat Buffalo.
I do also think, and I said this last week when we were previewing this, I am terrified of the emotional hangover that's going to come at some point. And I think we may have just seen it. I agree with you. I think because the whole DeMar Hamlin stuff, I think, we've got the emotional come down after that game last week was going to impact them. I think I wouldn't be surprised if next week they try and recreate that and he's at the stadium. I really think that's coming.
I think that'd be nice if he was.
Have him suit up again. See what happens.
Not playing, but
I would maybe let him go out and do the coin toss or just like wave or just some sort of show of respect.
No. Don't play him. Just let the Bill players think he's playing. Just have him. We're gonna run the ball, make a turtle shell, and we're just gonna push it down the field.
Chance, I want to say any chance that you had of being a head coach in the NFL might have just gone away.
Hey. If Adam Gase can have a job for 2 years, I can do it.
Look, man, I know the Cardinals were thinking about you. I don't know if you're still a candidate, but
I'm not allowed to say yet. But you know what? hey, I can let my star QB go and play Call of Duty while my offense is in shambles. Hey, why not?
Yeah, because you're going to be playing it with him.
I always play with him. Yes. But yeah, actually, the funny thing about this game is that there was some really weird mistakes on Miami's part. I've never seen receivers of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's caliber drop passes like that.
Waddle in particular
has some really bad drops.
The cold weather, I think, really impacted it because that was the cold weather and how hard the balls were was really impacting the receiving. And I think I'm actually fascinated by if they play. I'm fascinated if the Bills win next week and they play in the Chiefs in a neutral field. That's going to be real interesting because it's not cold weather, and neither of them are cold, and both of them are cold weather teams.
They're cold weather teams, yeah.
We also had one of my favorite just side things for a coach period, where the Dolphins had a delay a game, and you look at the sideline cam, Bagman hitting a jewel. It's weird. He's hitting a vape in the middle of the game, and just what are you doing, Mike? What's happening? I don't know if it was a vape. It's so he was hitting a vape.
It
I
looked
give
like
I
it.
give a lot of props to the Dolphins, though. I think people crushing Mike McDaniel for whatever this week are completely off base
McDaniel's a
because
good coach. Like this
yeah,
is
Oh
what
yeah.
are you going to do? Like he was down to his third string quarterback. Like
and
can't do much.
let's stop holding Brock Purdy up as the example for how a third string quarterback should be playing. Okay, I
Look
mean,
at that team. Like
Yeah.
look at the
yeah,
Niners compared to the Dolphins. Like,
you have some exciting weapons on offense. The running game has been hard to come by for Miami all season long, and Skyward Thompson coming in there. The Dolphins have a lot of tough questions to ask, and it's something that goes beyond football with Tua Tagovailoa at this. But for me anyway, I mean the amount of concussions that kid's had. I always anytime somebody's had anytime somebody's had multiple concussions, I think about the NHL a few years ago when Sidney Crosby, the poster boy of the NHL, had a concussion and didn't play for like a season and a half after that. And it's like, you really want to pin your hopes. And it's nothing against Tua. I think he's a great kid. I think he's a great leader. I think he's got all the intangibles. I like his accuracy. But my God, those concussions, it's really
they're
hard.
gonna go up. Like
It's really hard to build a franchise around that.
So I've got a little bit of experience with this because my sport, the NRL, which is rugby league here, we've been dealing with it for the last like 5 years. Because we are hard contact sport, but we don't wear helmets, and that causes a lot of problems with concussions. We've had so we do like international teams as well. The Australian captain retired last year because of concussion. He went, I'm done. I can't play anymore because he had 3 concussions within a 2-year period. And he went, I can't play anymore. I'm done. And
how strict are the rules over there as far as like protocols and stuff? Or is it pretty much on the player to pull themselves out?
No, it used to be on the player and they got real strict the last 2 years. It's basically like, there's independent doctors. They'll pull a player and he sits for the game. That's it. He's done. The biggest problem is the week later is how long until they can come back. That's where it starts getting a little iffy. But they've also tried to make the game a lot less brutal in that if you touch someone in the head now, it's you get sent off and you're done for the game. Like they've become a lot more conscious of it, and I'm fascinated if the NFL gets anywhere near it. Of basically because there was the tackle that happened in the Bucks game where he hits his throat. That would be you're sent off and you can't play for 6 weeks in the NRL.
And you know, as far as the Dolphins organization goes, they have so many bright spots right now, and it's such an exciting time, and it's such a breath of fresh air for every team in the AFC East not named New England, because they have just been looking up at this behemoth that you have to climb a beanstalk to even compete against for the last 20 years. And so now it felt like it was a little more wide open. Buffalo's certainly making a case. Maybe the Jets get a quarterback. They seem like they might be a QB away from being a contender. Miami's got to keep pace with that. And if you're going to bring back Tua, which I might be for, you need to have a solid backup. I don't know if Skyward Thompson's the answer. I know that my guy in Washington is probably the best backup quarterback on the market. Taylor Heineke's a free agent. If you want somebody to come in,
I thought it was about Carson Wentz. I was like, really?
I was not talking about Mr. Wentz.
Gardner Minshew, maybe.
I mean, Wentz is going to be a backup somewhere.
He's going to be back up somewhere, all right. And not for my team.
But yeah, Dolphins, much like the Seahawks, didn't lose bad. I thought you would. So props to you.
And they didn't have Mostert either. We didn't even mention that. They didn't have Mostert in this game.
But I think that's the other thing, like when you were mentioning about the Dolphins and how, hey, not everyone's going to be Brock Purdy. If every team had those 2 running backs that the 49ers had, and my brain's just decided not to give me their names.
Wilson and Mostert.
No,
the 49ers. Mitchell.
Samuel and McCaffrey.
Yeah.
If every team had them, I think any quarterback would be good because the defense has to account for both instantly. Like they just don't know so they're not going to be as hard on the quarterback as other teams have to be.
Moving on to our next game. This is a game I'm dubbing Fraud Bowl. Giants versus Vikings.
Wow.
I'm
Yes,
going to say
I
it.
said
Stonks
it.
player of the week, and I don't care. I love Daniel Jones this week was Stonks for me. I don't care. He was brilliant. He was
No, he was.
fantastic.
He was very good.
You know, he's mine too.
This is the best game
Really?
he's ever played. This is the
Wow.
game of his career. If I don't think he ever gets better than this. Like I think this is the best game he'll
This is
ever
the
play.
peak.
But this was also, and I know that they don't count playoff games. This was coach of the year stuff. This was Dabo, you're coach of the year. And I know you can't count wild card games, but what you have done for Daniel Jones is enough to make you coach of the year.
Yeah, after Daniel Jones suffering through the last couple seasons with just horrendous offensive game plans, making him look foolish, I feel like this was a big comeback year for Daniel Jones. I'm not ready to give him a bag, but I feel like if you can keep him and Brian Dable together, they seem like they can do a lot of exciting stuff in a division that seems winnable every year. I mean, the Cowboys really had moments where they looked like a juggernaut, but then they had other weeks like against Tennessee and against Washington down the stretch where it's like, who are they? They're going to get blown out in the playoffs. So I feel like the Eagles had a great year, and I don't know how many. I don't know if every season is going to go like that for them. But if Daniel Jones can look like that, like he did yesterday, I just don't know if that's the perfect game plan. I think we're going to find a lot out about Daniel Jones, about Brian Dable, and about that team this coming weekend when they got to go to Philly. That's going to be a real exciting contest.
And the other reason I'm not ready to give Daniel the bag is because who was playing Minnesota.
Yeah.
What does Minnesota not have?
Defense.
Secondary at all.
They had no second. They let Isaiah Hodgins run wild on them.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, keep in mind, this is a team that has looked extremely sus all year. I think 11-0 in one possession games.
Yeah.
Negative, I think like 9, 8, maybe double digit point differential for a team with 12 wins, which again should be impossible. Coming in against the team, and this is a game we were all looking at it just like, this is one they're probably going to lose. And you know what? The Giants came out swinging. What I was shocked in this game is the lack of running from the premier back, Saquon Barkley. Saquon didn't even get double-digit carries in this game, which was surprising to me.
No, he still had an impact in the ball game, but they didn't need. They're going to need Saquon this weekend. Last weekend, the Giants just showed up with NFC East old school toughness that Minnesota had no answer for, and I love my boy Kirk Cousins, but I don't. Okay, well, let's talk about that last play because I saw him getting a lot of crap about throwing underneath. He had
wait. Well, Mark, you mean this? You mean this last play?
4th and 8, game on the line. Cousins, Hawkinson, he is not gonna get there, and the Giants will take over.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
I love UHF, and congrats to Weird for cleaning up at the Critics' Choice Awards.
Did it really?
I mean, I'd be all for Kevin O'Connell drawing up a play where it's like, look, Kirk, as soon as you get the ball, just chuck it up to Justin Jefferson, let him be a hero. That was not that play. That was not the play that they schemed, and Kirk had nowhere to go with that football.
Because the thing is, like Kirk Cousins, he had a good game up to that point.
Yeah.
The only thing people are gonna remember is that last play. Like, you need 8 yards. And you throw a 3-yard check down. Like, even if it was incomplete, at least throw it past the sticks.
But if you look at where Jefferson is, he's getting him murdered. Like I'm not going to kill him over this one.
It's a bad play design for what you needed with that play. But
at least make an attempt. Make an attempt. I don't care if you don't pull it off. Make the attempt.
The sky is not falling in Minnesota because Kevin O'Connell, that's his first year as a head coach. And I think that he's got a lot right with Kirk Cousins this year. I think you can ride Kirk Cousins another year. I think the Vikings, it's a very bitter pill to swallow given the win-loss record that they had. They didn't look like that team all year, but they had it. It looks good on paper. And I think that once the dust settles, they're still going to be the team to beat in the NFC North unless the the Detroit Lions can show some of that late season magic they showed, how happy is every team in the playoffs that they do not have to face the Detroit Lions?
100% happy. Like
I would
not
have
want them.
The Lions and the Steelers are the team that nobody wanted to see.
been fascinated if 49ers played the Lions, because I think I don't know if they would have beaten them, but
The Lions
that
would have
second
tried
half
everything.
That would have been a
that second half
dogfight.
would have been interesting. And after watching the Bills Dolphins game, I'm very glad we didn't play the Steelers. I'm very glad we didn't play the Steelers. So
Yeah, I'm sitting them out just like, man, we
Yeah.
would have won this.
The other big takeaway I had from this game is like that what Vikings in the offseason really need to work on that defense. Like that's what they just need to focus on, is just invest in
secondary
defense.
specifically. Like their secondary is atrocious.
Yep.
I feel like I had a Stonks player of the week that was a contender. It's not my pick this week, but Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that he just kind of mentally affected the entire offensive play calling from the Vikings. It wasn't the dominant performance that you saw him have against my team when we needed our team to play well the most, but he still is going to have an impact. If he can harass Jalen Hurts a little bit this weekend, then I think the Giants got a real shot. I was surprised at how big the line was, at how big that gap was, that the Giants are, I think, 6.5-point dogs or 7.5-point dogs to the Eagles. This is pretty close to a pick 'em for me.
You're mentioning Kayvon, like of all of the rookie players, like you saw him from the midpoint of the season to the end. What a growth. He's going to be terrifying going forward.
Yeah, and people are questioning the draft pick, and I'm like, remember, he got hurt in the preseason. So if you look at the NFC East injuries in the preseason, pretty horrific ones to Brian Robinson, my guy, and then also Kayvon Thibodeau. And once they start coming back every week, they kept getting better.
All of them. Yep.
I still find it hilarious that Brian Robinson was literally shot twice. He came back after like 6 weeks.
Less than halfway through the season. Yeah.
Michael Thomas this entire season because of his toe.
Hey, we know toes are very sensitive in football. That goes all the way back to Deion Sanders and turf toe. Okay, I should write a coffee table book about toe injuries in the NFL.
but no, you make the sequel to Concussion, but it's just all about toe injuries.
It's just about toe injuries.
All right. Up next, this is a game that I watched with both great interest and great disdain. It was the Ravens versus the Bengals. This is a game that I think the money line for this one was, I think the spread for this was like 13.5 in favor of the Bengals.
It was high. Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, there's no way they cover this because it's the AFC North. And I was right.
I love hard-hitting
Bengals
football.
Came out and looked sloppy. I'm sorry. They looked sloppy at first.
They looked like Buffalo, or they looked like the Niners in the first half. They looked like the Jags in the first half. They looked like a team that is just getting their playoff bearings right. And in the second half, I just could not. Huntley played his heart out. I could not get
I was
past.
surprised using him. I thought they were going Anthony Brown again. I'm just like, oh god, this is going to be disgusting.
We really got robbed of what clearly would have been the game of the week. If Lamar Jackson was playing in that game, that would have been such a treat. But it still ended up being a really good football game. And the Ravens Steelers, the Ravens Bengals, like that pocket in the AFC North has been really fun to watch. Just good, hard hitting Sunday night football for a long time.
Real quick, before we get like more of the actual game, I do want to talk about about Lamar Jackson, because the interesting thing I thought about this game specifically was that Lamar Jackson was not there.
He wasn't even present. Yeah.
Which I heard them just like, wait, what? Like, this is like the biggest game of the year, and you're not going to show up? Like, there's something going on in that locker room. There's some kind of rift between Lamar and upper management that is just like going to cause the destruction of this team.
He will not be a Raven again. I think he has played his last down as a Raven. He's done. I think.
Yeah. I think there's two ways to look at it. And by the way, I'm just a comedian, and I don't want my mom to be my agent.
Yeah.
I think that with Lamar, I think that there's a very, well, you could look at that scenario and say, okay, he just does not want to be a distraction. And I would give that some credence because everything that people were saying that he should suit up, Vic saying he should suit up, RG3 saying, look at my knee. No, he should not suit up. And I feel like I'm glad he did. For me, as a fan watching the game, I'm thrilled he did not show up because every other cutaway would have been him on the sideline. And I don't want to see that. And I think that that's part of the reason why he didn't go. Maybe there is some rift and he just.
But I think like for team morale, like again, if I was playing, like,
I get that part too.
If my starting quarterback's like, you know what, I'm not going. I'm not going to show up. I'd be like, thanks.
I got a counter argument to that.
But if after that touchdown return, you're looking at Lamar and you're going, he could have been on the field.
Exactly.
I think that might have been a bit worse.
It might have been a bit worse, but like still, I think like for morale, you probably should be there. Because he's in a whole dispute with the Ravens. I'm not angry. I'm not being that. I'm just saying it's weird.
Here is, I think, the biggest problem that they've had is from day one, the Ravens have handled this horribly. Absolutely. And I'm meaning from day one of the injury, they've handled this horribly because every single press conference interview that Harbaugh has had has been, oh yeah, he could be back this week. When clearly either he was very injured from the start and you just didn't want to say that, or he isn't injured and he is holding out and he is intentional and he's saying he's injured. There has been a very bad miscommunication, or there is something worse going on. And I think that if the Ravens had come out after week 13 and just went, he's done for 5 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it was, and said he's done, he might be back for the playoffs, I think that would have stopped a lot of the questions during the regular season. And then in the playoffs, you say he's not quite ready yet. Instead of every single week we've had, is he playing? Is he playing? Is he playing?
Their strategy was more like what Belichick would do in New England, where it's like, why are we going to give you information that we don't have to? But you do that with somebody who's signed and you know is going to be around the building for a long time.
Yeah,
with Lamar, I think it's been mishandled from the time that Harbaugh and his staff designed an entire offense, an entire football team around Lamar Jackson. That's enough to me as an owner to say, okay, you did this. There's a lot of success we're having here. Give him his money. And you dragged your feet on that.
I will disagree on one point. Everyone's saying they mishandled the Lamar situation. I disagree. I think they handled it great for everybody else in the division.
As a Steelers fan, I love it.
As a Steelers fan, I am happy the way this is all going down. Get that son of a bitch out of the AFC North.
Well, no,
in this circumstance, though, you had a team. The Ravens are one of, if not the most injury-ravaged team in football. The fact that they made the playoffs with everything that happened to them throughout the season, with all of their injuries, is pretty astounding.
Yeah,
and this team played arguably out of all 8 teams that played this week. 12 teams that played this week. Probably the most heart of any team that was on the field this entire weekend.
Played lights out for the Ravens.
That defense was good.
Roquan Smith trade, that was the best trade of the best, aside from the McCaffrey deal. I think for the defensive end of things, that was the best trade any team made. Roquan Smith, and he
was bigger. The defense was stout. Again, like even Huntley, that didn't play too bad. Which again,
no, he did.
Lamar is probably rooting for the Bengals in this case, because if Tyler Huntley wins this game, nothing would destroy his paycheck more.
Yep,
than them winning this game without him.
You know what's going to really hurt the Ravens, though? Burrow's getting his contract in the offseason, and it's going to be higher than Watson's, especially if he makes another Super Bowl and wins this year. Now,
absolutely.
If he does that, it's going to be higher than Watson's, and it's going to be fully guaranteed. And Lamar's now going to be like, I'm better than him. Like, I'm better than Watson. What I need to be. I now have, you now have a barometer. You now have Watson's deal at the low end and his on the high end.
I'm so glad you brought up Burrow's contract, because this is the notoriously by far cheapest franchise in the NFL. It pinches their pockets everywhere they can. They save every penny. The Cincinnati Bengals do not like paying money to anyone. The town of Cincinnati, all of Kentucky will do a GoFundMe to raise the rest of the funds to keep Joe Burrow. And
not Cincinnati, but the state of Kentucky as well.
Yeah.
When you fly into Cincinnati, you actually fly into Kentucky. That's like where the airport is, and then you just, dude, it's you're playing. When you do the Cincinnati Funny Bone, you're basically doing the Kentucky Funny Bone.
Wow.
So yeah, insider knowledge there for you.
Ohio wants it so bad they're making Kentucky raise their money.
I mean, you got the Kentucky Wildcats, you got the Bengals. There's a lot of simpatico there.
That's fair.
But that's going to be a big factor this offseason. Because you're right. The Bengals are the cheapest franchise. I think they're going to have to pay him. I think that there is no way they don't pay the Bengals.
I don't think they will. Honestly, I don't think they will. They're going to let him walk, and they're going to try to find.
No, sorry. The Bengals are going to have to pay Burrow.
Oh no,
they're going to pay Burrow.
Burrow's getting paid.
Burrow is going to get paid.
Yeah,
they're going to get paid handsomely.
It's going to be
murdered by TJ Watt for the next 5 years.
But it's going to be really a barometer test of where is the NFL on fully guaranteed contracts. Because if Burrow gets a fully guaranteed contract, that's the standard. That's now the new standard. If he doesn't, okay, Watson's the one-off. We're not at fully guaranteed.
What scares me more, honestly, is the wide receiver market, because like when Chase and Jefferson need extensions.
Well, Jefferson's on his.
God,
Jefferson gets his in the offseason. He's gonna he's gonna get paid. Chase is gonna be next year. Higgins is gonna be. Is Higgins this year or next year?
Higgins is this year.
Yeah,
Higgins is this year. Higgins might go somewhere else.
Yeah, they might not be able to afford him. So this is the Bengals.
And you know what? I encourage those moves, because the more money you put in Joe Burrow's pocket, the less money you had to put in the offensive line. So,
I think I suspect Peggy Gubbins might have a T. Higgins jersey in her future, because that's where I think he's going to wind up.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Speaking of offensive line, real quick, that's why I think the Bills prevail in an otherwise pretty even dogfight. But I just don't trust that Bengals offensive line. They played so much better this year, but they're not healthy going into this.
Nah.
I think they're down another tackle too.
If you start talking about dislocated kneecaps, then that scares me for a lineman. So I think that might be the difference in the game, is the Bengals just not being able to protect Burrow quite enough. And Josh Allen still has to play well, though. He's got to play a lot better than he did last week.
He's got to. I'm gonna talk about all that later. But last game we're getting into is the Cowboys versus the Buccaneers. And you know what? Let me just start off. Let me just go on my tangent for a little bit. This week I decided to take up betting for the first time in my life.
I'm so proud of you, son.
One of the bets I placed was on the Buccaneers to beat the Cowboys. I was relying on Tom Brady to do the thing that he does and beat the Dallas Cowboys. Guess what Tom Brady didn't do? The one time I need Tom Brady to unlock his late talent and do something, he fucking fails, and he fucking failed against the one team he always beats. And you know what?
Sorry, Chance.
Tom Brady is my winner of the Brady Award.
He's mine too. Easy.
What?
Well, there's another candidate in this game too.
There's another candidate in this game for not Stonks. You know what's funny? The Stonks and the not Stonks player both are on the same team for me.
Really?
Because the Stonks player of the week is Micah Parsons.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, he disrupted a ball game.
He was such a disruptive force, and more so than what his stats are going to show you, he taunted, he toyed with, he joked around with. He was in the Buccaneers' offensive line head. He was in the head of their receivers, their running backs. Nobody ever gets into Tom Brady's head, but Micah Parsons got as close as anybody ever has. He is such a force. He's not Lawrence Taylor, but the modern NFL, he is somebody that you can try to double team. You can try to triple team. He's going to find a way to have an effect on a game.
I'll say he's like DeMarcus Ware 2.0, which does terrify me, but still.
And then obviously the not Stonks player of the week is the one, the only, not one, not two, not three, but 4 missed extra points.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. That was the funniest thing of the weekend. The fact that the dude missed 4 extra points, each in different ways.
Was anyone else watching the Manning cast? Peyton literally just got up and walked off screen when the 4th one missed.
It's like can you cut a guy in the middle of the game?
if I'm the Bucks, like if I work at the Bucks Stadium, I want the cannons fired every time Brett Maher misses an extra point.
The only thing that made this game better is that the Cowboys lost by 4.
Yo, Bill, yeah.
I mean, obviously that's what I was hoping for as a lifelong Cowboys hater, but I really lucked out last night because usually when there's a big football game on, I shut everything else down and that's what I'm doing. I get all the work done. I'm not focused on anything else. I'm just sitting there with the dog watching the game the entire time. I got an invite to go to dinner with a bunch of friends last night, and I was like, what's wrong with these guys? There's the Cowboys Bucks is going to be an all-time great playoff game, and I decided to take them up on it. And I'm driving over there, and as I'm driving over the hill, I think Maher missed his 4th extra point, and I'm like, I don't know that Brady's bringing him back, and it just ended up being the game where Brady just didn't bring him back, and
this
was just an atrocious performance by the Buccaneers, who, to save some of their face, were never really that good this year.
They weren't. No, they weren't. But I at least needed them to be good enough to beat Dallas because I hate those fans so much.
I went in thinking we were going to get Tom Brady magic because it's Tom Brady, it's the Cowboys. That's what I expected. I thought the Cowboys were going to somehow lose this game. And when Brett Maher started missing those kicks, I went,
This is how
they're going to lose that game because it's the Cowboys. They're going to make it close and McCarthy's going to make a mistake.
Not to mention, it was Dan Quinn with a double-digit lead against Tom Brady.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw that movie.
The thing that turned this game, and I think the thing that made this, Cowboys are winning, and I just went, yep, Cowboys are going to win this. There's no coming back from this, was the red zone interception. As soon as Tom Brady threw that, I was like, that's it. Game over.
After they made such a big deal of him never throwing a red zone pick for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't have this confirmed yet, but my bet is that at halftime, Dan Quinn ran down from the booth to the locker room and gave a speech akin to Will Ferrell's pep talk at the end of Old School. And he's like, I've seen this. This has happened to me. This man is the boogeyman. You need to end it now. You cannot tell me that didn't happen.
Yeah. I definitely think that
100% is like, I've been through this. Y'all ain't going to do this again. Yep. You get out of the new goddamn plane.
Yeah. That red zone interception, I think, because if they score there, it's 14-7. Oh, sorry, it's 12-7.
12-7.
He missed the 2 freaking kicks. And then we're able to go the length of the field and score. They had done it. Instead, there's the turnover. Cowboys go down. They score. It's now 20. I got to do the math. It's now 18. It's now 18.
But
that's
But real talk, honestly, we might have just seen the real death of Tom Brady. I don't know how he comes back from. Because the thing, we always talk about in the offseason, where's he going to go? He's going to go here. He's going to go here. I don't know any team that would touch Brady in this condition.
Raiders.
Raiders, you're not going to be competitive with Brady at this point. Tom Brady needs to carry him. And AFC, when you got Mahomes, hear me out. In the AFC, when you got Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, I'll put Tila on that conversation. Brady doesn't matter what team he's on, he's not taking past them. So no, you need a team with an elite defense, a good offensive line, and great skill positions. Only teams that fit that description in the NFC right now that can carry Brady to a Super Bowl, which is what he wants, are the Niners and the Eagles, both of which we don't need him.
Washington does not have a terrible defense. We actually have one of the better defenses in the league.
He's making I know he was making a joke when he said, "I'll take him." He's not.
No, I was not. I was not. I'm just a naturally funny human, Jacob.
Because I've seen your alternative, and it's not good.
I'm dead serious when I say I would welcome Brady. I mean, I'd welcome Jimmy G. I'd welcome a veteran to come in and sort of mentor Sam Howell, have Taylor Heineke still in the mix. But Tom Brady, and I know you feel the same way. Tom Brady. If you have a line that you got to remember, the Bucs did not have a healthy offensive line all year long. Ryan Jensen was out, and he came back last night. That was his. That was. I mean, you think about that and the relationship. All the weapons that Washington has offensively, with the receiving core that's anchored by McLaurin and Dotson, with Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson as a 1-2 beast running the ball. a good offensive. You put some money into the offensive line in the offseason. I think Washington's an attractive destination.
You know who would help you with that, Mark? Trent Williams.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Look,
and the guy had
Mike, you know who would help you in this case? Mekhi Becton. ABT.
Absolutely. Well, we have both of them under contract. But one thing I was going to say,
healthy.
Tom Brady for the rest of his career life is going to have January 16th just X'd out on his calendar because he had this atrocious loss. Plus, the Bart Scott can't wait game also took place on January 16th.
Oh, God.
So, this is going to be a day that Tom Brady he's just going to turn off his phone and just run away for the rest of his life on January 16th.
But yes, bottom line, they may want you on the team, but Tom Brady, I, for one thing, you should retire out of pure embarrassment. You destroyed your family to lose to Mitch.
He's not retiring.
He's not retiring on that.
Let me finish. You destroyed your family to lose to Mitch Trubisky, your former backup, Mr. Irrelevant, an XFL QB, and the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Go home.
Okay. I have a hard time thinking a family got destroyed when there's $1 billion of wealth between the mom and the dad, even if they don't live in the same house. That's still a pretty happy Christmas.
Not happy enough, Mark.
I honestly think that he's going to retire. I see most pundits as of now thinking that he's going to come back. And look, I like seeing the guy. It's must-see TV, but I don't think he needs to retire out of embarrassment or anything else. This is a bad game. Nobody walks away from this thing unscathed, okay? Even John Elway in his last game, we knew he was on his last legs. That is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of walk-off, winning 2 Super Bowls and then retire. Tom Brady...
Hey, Manning did it.
Tom Brady
did not win the game. Elway did.
That's true. Elway did win the game.
Tom Brady has nothing to hang his head about last night or beyond or anything else. If he retires as the GOAT. There's no embarrassment to be had with his performance last night in the grand scheme of things. I think he will retire. A lot of people think he won't. I'd like to see him continue to play football because I just want to see how far he can go. It's nice to have a player older than me in the NFL. That's inspiring, but I think he's going to retire. That's my prediction.
Isn't Brian Hoyer older than you?
He looks older than me. There's a lot of guys that look older than me, Chance. I have a very complex beauty regimen that a lot of these NFL players don't have time to pursue.
I think one more year. I think he'll go one more year with some team.
I mean, if he wants to go to the Raiders, that's the last, like Hunter Renfro's like the last dominant, diminutive white receiver. So I feel like it's a good decision for him.
Positive that any team that grabs him, compared to a lot of other quarterbacks that are around, is they don't have to give up anything for him. He's a free agent. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, free. Oh, that's right. This is last year contract, isn't it?
Yeah, he ends up that press conference. He's done with the Bucs. Absolutely done with the Bucs. Yeah. He is not going to be a Buck next year. I just think if he goes to another team, he's not going to cost much because he's going to be very much. I put all that money in everyone else.
You know who I feel bad for right now? I feel bad for Bucks fans. I feel like they're about to go.
They're in for a rebuild.
They're in for a long rebuild, but guess what?
They got a ring.
It's the same thing with the Rams fans. Hug that ring. You got one. There are teams that don't. Look at Saints fans.
Look at you.
Yeah. Okay.
Look at you. Not you, Mark. Look at Mike.
I've won.
Oh, you have one. You had the first one.
I'm more meaning teams
13 years before I was born.
The teams that went all in and it blew up in their face. Saints are going through it right now. The Packers are about to go through it, and it was for nothing. And they didn't win a Super Bowl.
If it's the Bills this year, then yeah, look at you.
Well, hell, if we go through everything, but we haven't gone all in. We haven't gone all in.
Not all in, but you got mostly in.
No, I think the Bills are pretty set for a couple years, regardless of this season. But Tampa Bay, you could have a pretty quick turnaround if you have a bad season, whether you're just not good or you just don't feel like winning football games, because there's a guy that plays football at USC and he's really good at quarterback and he's going to be in next year's draft. And that could be a number one pick.
Yeah, what the hell?
Caleb Williams is next year.
Caleb Williams, man.
You got Caleb Williams. You got a certain what's what I'm looking for? A certain dynasty member coming out of UT.
I don't know if Arch is going to be ready for that draft. I think Arch might be a couple of drafts.
No, I mean like in the future, in the future period.
Arch has got 3 years. Arch is 3 years at least.
I'm not saying like immediately. I'm just saying he's coming at some point.
Chance, I'll tell you what. Your team can have Arch Manning. I'll take Caleb Williams, and we'll see who.
Yes, perfect. I mean, I love Kenny Pickett. I'll take Arch Manning.
Are
I will
you-
not say no to Arch Manning?
Just a quick sidebar. Are you in or out on Kenny Pickett? Do y'all need a quarterback,
I'm
or
in.
do you want to stick with
I'm
Pickett?
in. I'm in
Okay.
on him.
He's in.
I like
Me
him.
too.
I like his moxie.
Yeah.
I think he showed a lot of improvement, especially down the stretch.
Perfect quarterback for that weather, for that town, for that fan base.
100%.
I think as long as Mike Tomlin's coach for that team, they're going to be a damn good football team. And yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the football that was. Now we look forward to football that is coming. First, this is our divisional weekend look ahead, as well as stunks or not stunks, where we call out a player and we say whether or not they are stunks. And because we only have 8 teams playing, we're going to call one for each. I'm going to call one for each team. So first up, we got the Jags versus the Chiefs.
This is the game that I think I have the most confidence in the outcome of the 4. Obviously, I'm taking the Chiefs in this one. This could be a cold weather game. Lawrence is, unproven necessarily.
But
He's never lost on a Saturday, though.
This
He has
game will
never
be on
lost
a
on a
Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah, he has never lost on Saturday, which is interesting. But I just don't see. I think the Jaguars are going to put up a fight. I don't think this is going to be a runaway, but the Chiefs are going to take this.
I think you could see something very similar to what we saw with Seahawks Niners last week, where you're in the game and you're competitive and the vibes are good, and you just awoke a sleeping giant known as the Kansas City Chiefs. The one thing about that, though, is if the game's close at halftime, remember the game was pretty one-sided when the Chiefs were playing the Bengals last year, and then Mahomes they had like a weird gaffe right before halftime, and that just kind of was a cloud hanging over them in the second half. I don't anticipate that happening. I'd like to see a close game, but yeah, I mean, I'll take my stonks player would probably actually end up being Travis Kelce for this game.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to bring him. I was going to, well, first of all, for the Jags, for stonks or not stonks, I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence.
For stonks?
Well, yeah, like
No,
do
you
you
say
think he's
stonks or not stonks?
think
What
he
do you
is?
think is
Oh,
gonna happen?
that's how we
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say stonks. I think he has a good game. I think he does. Like I think
I'm going to say not, and I'll explain. It's pretty well established against the Chiefs that if you can get a run game going, that's the way to take on the Chiefs, and I think they will do that at the beginning of the game. But when Lawrence has to throw the ball, he's going to turn it over. So I think ETN would get more of a stonks for me, but I'm going to go not on Trevor.
All right, and Mark, you have tiebreaker. Is Trevor Lawrence stonks or not?
I think it's just going to be a very middling performance either way, but I'll give him stonks. I like that hair.
Now for it's just the hair. I mean, he did win the hair battle last Saturday.
It's remember the Titans hair. Come on.
Now for the Chiefs, I'm going to throw out a little weird one. I'm going to say Kadarius Toney.
Ooh, okay.
That's a wild card.
Mark, I'm going to start with you.
I think that I'm going to go stonks for Kadarius Toney.
Interesting.
I'm going to say stonks, and that he's going to have like 2 catches, but it's going to be for like 75 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. An impact.
Well, Jacob, that's not what you said. Would you say stonks for Toney?
Yeah, I'm going to say stonks for. I think because Mahomes is going to be throwing that, like he's going to be spreading the ball like he has all season. Yeah, I think it is. My other thing that I want to mention just with this game is, I think at some point I think the Jags are going to be up 14-0 or something. I think they're going to be up by 2 scores at one point, and then the Chiefs are going to come back. I think that's kind of where we're looking, because I think the Chiefs are going to be rusty in the first half. Jags are going to be coming off that win, and I think they're going to come out, high fly a little bit, and then start we're going to make the divisional. We're going to make the divisional, and Chiefs are just going to come back. And
Travis Kelce and Jerick McKinnon are going to wake up, and
I think I think that's where we're going in this game, just because that's what the Chiefs is. So if you're thinking of betting on this game, maybe just do it at halftime, or have a look at like when the Chiefs are down, because I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to get some really good odds.
Up next, we got Nightmare Bowl for Ellis. Giants versus Eagles.
Hey, this isn't a Nightmare Bowl because there's no chance of Dallas winning it.
That's fair.
I love this matchup just as a football fan. I think this is going to be such a physical, hard-hitting, If there was a way to artificial intelligence have Madden and Summerall call this game, I'd vote for it. This is the kind of game that they would just eat out. I mean, it's just, I love this stuff. I feel like the Giants are going to pose a real threat to the Eagles. I think the Giants could beat the Eagles this weekend.
This is a trap game. This is basically a coin flip for me, but based on the momentum they built last week, the other thing, and I'm going to mention Washington. Washington outright put the game plan out there on how to beat the Eagles. If the Giants are, if they can get Breda and Barkley just keeping the drives going, and even Jones, 5 yards of play. That's all you have to do. Keep them off the field, make them make mistakes. And you saw that the Saints did it to them too. I think if the Giants keep the ball on the ground, they could win this game.
As long as the turf monster doesn't show up.
Yeah, I think there was a reason Barkley kind of had a bit more of a pulled back game last week. They're saving him for this one. I think it's also why they were. I think it was also why for the last 5 weeks Barkley has been pretty pulled back and not going and hadn't been fantastic. Is they were saving him for the playoffs. They knew they'd made it. They were saving him for the playoffs.
Trying to check if both the tackles for the Giants are healthy. They are. As far as I'm saying,
and the other big thing that and it's why I haven't been high on the Eagles for the last month. They are injured. They have gotten
I don't know that Hurts is not 100%.
Yeah, Hurts' shoulder.
Not only Hurts, their O-line's in trouble.
Hurts' shoulder scares me.
There's nobody on IR for the Eagles.
There's no one on IR, but they're
there's nobody questionable. The only people questionable with the Eagles are on defense.
So that's my concern. That is my big concern.
This could be one of those games, though, where really quick, it's like, oh, Jalen Hurts is healthy, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith look really good. And
that was mine. So for the Eagles, my player I'm throwing out for you is Jalen Hurts.
Man, that's tough, but he's such a pro that assuming he can play healthy, I'm going to say Stonks, and I'm going to go this 2 ways. I think whoever's quarterbacking the Eagles, I'm giving them Stonks. So if Hurts can't get it done and Gardner Minshew comes in, I'll give him Stonks.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is good. There is going to be points put up on the board. When you're going to look at statistics, I don't think Hurts is going to lose this game for the Eagles, even though I picked the Giants. I don't think it's going to be on Hurts. So I'll go Stonks.
All right.
I'll be different. Not Stonks. Like I said, I think Giants are winning this game, and I think it's going to be a really great game. I'm so glad this is on a Saturday.
Yeah, prime time, yeah.
Well, yeah,
but no, it means I can watch it because it's on a Sunday for me.
The Giants.
Yep.
Are we getting Danny Dimes or Danny Derps?
Danny Dimes. I'm not all in on Daniel Jones, but I'm all in on Brian Daboll because I have seen Josh Allen pre-Brian Daboll, with Brian Daboll, and after Brian Daboll, and I really liked when he was with Brian Daboll, and I miss him as our offensive coordinator really badly.
Yeah,
so I'm stonks on Daniel.
I can't go not stonks just because I feel like even if Daniel Jones just has an okay game, I don't want to penalize him with a not stonks. So I'll give him a stonks. And Brian Daboll, like Jacob said, is the reason why, despite the fact that Daboll does kind of look like a guy who gets into like argument with the fast food window and like has road rage against him and just like yanks him out of the fast food window and like punches him for getting the fries wrong. But
so he looks like Russell Crowe and Unhinged. Just bald.
Hey, Russell Crowe is the best Twitter follow possibly of all time.
He is actually. I love
He's
Russell
great.
Crowe's Twitter. All right. Up next, something on our Sunday slate. This, I think, if this is not game of the week, I will be shocked. And it's the Bengals versus the Bills.
Sign me up for this one.
Yep.
I am shocked that this is not a primetime game.
Well, because we know who's on primetime.
No, I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Oh, you're shocked that they didn't flex the Giants Eagles to Saturday or Sunday morning, and then
or find some way of or put Chiefs on at this time, and then put because I don't think you can have two like this same
They don't put
conference
them at
on
the
the same
same
days
time.
or something.
Yeah.
Jacob, I'll tell you
I-
exactly why this is not a primetime game. The Bills Mafia enjoys partying, and I think they want to get this done and over with in an earlier window and not give them all day in the parking lot.
They got tables to break. They got things to do. They can't be sitting
Yeah.
there waiting all day for the game.
That's fair. I'm really excited for this game. I'm terrified. I'm nervous. I'm hoping, Mark, you are completely right and that we win this game. But
I mean, my money will be on the Bengals for this game.
Really?
look, I'm gonna call. I'm calling
look,
it.
it's not
I'm
because I
calling
believe
Bills.
they're going to win. It's because my free bets only pay off if the odds are ridiculous. So I'm really betting on all the underdogs.
I
My
love
free
this.
bets expire this week, so I got to use them.
I love this version of you that is just going to be living in comped rooms in Vegas for the next 5 years, depending on where you play poker. This is the chance that we always knew we were going to get. Your name is Chance. I mean, this is perfect.
He's
I
learned.
want to be there the first time you're in a casino at a sports book.
Well, I think we all want to be in Jacob's house for this game just to watch him pace back and forth, because that's what I do when I just pace.
I would have loved to have been there for the Chargers Jags game. I'll say that right now. I would love to have been there last week.
Taylor was sitting on the couch, basically comatose. She wasn't moving. She was.
Yeah,
she's not like me. I'm bad. I'm like I pace up and down. I can't sit still. It drives
I'm a
Taylor
feral
nuts.
cat.
You should have seen me. The Chiefs Bills game last year. I was the worst. It's the worst. I was very annoying, and it very much annoyed Taylor.
And it was an all-time great game, and I think we could get one of those this weekend. I just think the Bills are just too strong. I think that fan base at home, I just think it's a little bit of an advantage, and I think the Bengals play well. I think they played better than they played against the Ravens. I think the Bills played much better than they do against the Dolphins, and I think the Bills end up winning.
For my heart, I want the Bills to win. For my wallet, I want the Bengals to win. But let's look at the wide receivers for this game. For the Bills, my dog Stephon Diggs.
I'm never gonna say not stonks for him. Never.
Yeah, big stonks.
Absolutely stonks.
Especially because I'm pretty sure I think like the word I heard on the broadcast were primary cover guy Eli Apple, which that needs to that's the sole reason they will never win a Super Bowl. Eli Apple. Just the one.
Their secondary is a little banged up, but they also have Jesse Bates, Wake Forest legend. So
who they did not want to pay, and they still haven't paid.
The Bills are going to get nothing on the ground in this game. The Bengals' run defense is going to shut them down. Allen is going to have like a 400-yard passing game because of that.
I'm not going to throw out Jamar Chase. That's too easy. I'm going to throw out T. Higgins. Hi, T. Higgins.
I think Jamar Chase is going to be not stonks and Higgins is stonks. I think he's going to have real trouble getting the ball to I think he's going to have real trouble getting the ball to
because Trey White is back for this game.
Yeah.
Not only that, I think also that O-line is destroyed, and if he can't get down the field, you can't get in the ball. Sorry, I shouldn't have done it.
Benai's still looking really good right by now, isn't he?
It's so tough to call with T. Higgins. Like, all the love to T. Higgins for what he went through really as well.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks, it's tough for him to suit up.
Oh, I didn't even do that on purpose. Like, I didn't even realize. Like, as I was doing
it's tough for him to suit up and play against the Bills. It just is.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to have a much easier time if he gets to the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl than this game. I hope that he gets treated appropriately well by the Bills faithful.
I think he will.
I'll give him the stonks for this game, just out of everything the kid's been through.
I totally like space on that. I just want to throw a second receiver.
Yeah. Like I said, I think he'll have a good game. I think it's Chase who doesn't. I think Chase is the one that they will look afterwards and go, "Oh, Chase had 5 receptions for 20 yards or for nothing," and we're going to be like, where did that come from? And it's just like, it's because he didn't have time to give him the ball.
I think Higgins is going to be basically pull a Jaguars. I think he's going to come out and be a little jittery and then get to the third quarter, and then all of a sudden he's going to wake up.
Yeah,
And then
I think the first quarter of this game's going to be real weird to watch. It's going to be really weird because it's going to be real. There's going to because not only that, you're going to have every commentator and everyone mentioning it for the hour leading up to it. So
I do hope that DeMar Hamlin goes I want to see like a moment where, like, between DeMar Hamlin, like where they shake hands, like him and T Higgins. So it's like, hey, we're all good, man.
That's why I think he'll be at the game. If he's physically able to be at the game and it's not compromising his health, then I think it'd be great for him to be at the game for the Bengals too. I think everybody can breathe. And frankly, I think it makes for a better football game for all of us fans watching too. My hot take about this game on the field is I think Josh Allen might be the leading rusher for Buffalo.
I don't think it's a hot take. I don't think it's a hot take.
Absolutely.
That's not a hot take. That's like that. That's been the reason Buffalo is not going to get all the way.
Okay. Then I'm going to change it. That was my hot take, and you didn't get home for dinner on time, and I had to sit here for 30 minutes with a hot take, and you came home, and your take was cold by the time you got home from
You told
work.
me to be at the fishing boat, and I was there, and you never showed up.
That's why my son turned to a life of gambling.
And the last one we're talking about, Sunday night primetime. The Cowboys versus the 49ers.
I mean, this is, you talk about Madden Summerall, you talk about 90s and really 80s football too. This is such a marquee matchup as far as the branding goes.
Like the catch happen against the Cowboys?
Yeah. In 81, that was the last football game that Vin Scully broadcast. And so that's him. Like when you see Dwight Clark making that catch, that's Vin Scully's voice. And then you have the legendary, Montana and then Steve Young versus Troy Aikman games that were just so good and so muddy and disgusting, and just you knew whoever was winning that game. That was the Super Bowl back in the 90s.
Yep.
For this game, my heart, everything that I have is rooting for the 49ers because I do hate Dallas just that much. And it scares me because Dallas, it's so hard to tell if the Bucs are that bad or if Dallas is that good or if it's a combination of the two. But there is something going on with Brett Maher, and the kicking surface and the kicking conditions do not get any easier if you're going from Buffalo to Northern California this time of year. So I'm going to take the Niners.
Okay, well, for stonks, not stonks, Brett Maher. That's all I'm going to throw for the Cowboys.
I'm going not stonks. I think I'm not saying he's missing 4 extra points, but I think he might. Think he's probably yanking a field goal or two.
Okay, that's not my real pick. My real pick for the Cowboys is going to be. You know what? I'm gonna throw out Tony Pollard.
Do it. I thought you were going Zeke, but Tony Pollard's a good one too. I think Pollard plays well, and I think he has the stonks game.
Yeah,
we got one. I think all stonks for Pollard.
Yeah, and I think Pollard is also going to be getting a lot of play in the pass game because the 49ers are going to shut them down, and Dak is going to need checkdowns. I think Pollard's going to catch 5 or 6 balls, probably for about 50 yards.
All right.
I'm a bit conflicted in this game. Everything about me wants the 49ers to win this so badly. I really want 49ers
but look,
to win
for long-term ambitions, Cowboys win this. They extend Mike McCarthy for 5 years.
No, my problem is my father-in-law is a massive Cowboys fan, and he's here next week. They're coming here, and I would love to watch them lose the conference final, and he's standing there. I would really love that. So, I'm conflicted on which one I want. No, I'm going to go 49ers. I think they do win. This is really going to depend on how does the occasion arise for Brock?
Yeah.
I think how does he play, especially given there's going to be a lot more pressure from Parsons and that Dallas defense. He's going to feel it a lot more. Now, if he's just giving the ball off.
Yeah, but you got Trent Williams. If there's anybody I think they can hold Micah Parsons to no sacks, no impact all game, it's Trent Williams.
I get it. I also think weather could be a big factor in this. And if weather does become a factor, I'm going to definitely go 49ers because I think their run game is just that much. Obviously Cowboys have probably have a top 5 run game, but that 49ers one is just unbeatable at the moment.
And you've got a man named Deebo Samuel who can do everything on the field, who is probably going to run wild in this game.
Yeah. I don't know what Brock Purdy's ceiling is, but it seems like his basement has been established as he's not going to make the big mistake. And I did just knock on wood as I said that, because the guy he started 4 years at Iowa State. I think he was the third string when he came in, but then he quickly was cemented as the starter his freshman year. And so he's got a lot of experience just playing big-time football. I know it's not the NFL, but that makes a difference. If you don't think that makes a difference, ask somebody like Trey Lance, okay? Right. So he's been in this before. He knows football. As long as he doesn't make the big turnover, I think that they handle business and beat the Cowboys. And I'm also really rooting for that outcome, so I'm trying to speak it into existence.
But then there's also, and the other big thing that I think's a key factor when it comes to NFL quarterbacks is you need to have a chip on your shoulder. And he is Mr. Irrelevant.
Yep,
that puts a pretty big
always have a chip. Always have a
chip. So I think that is a big factor. I think everyone giving Dak his flowers this week may not be a good thing for Dak, compared to last week where everyone was saying he's going to cost the Cowboys their season and cost Mike McCarthy his job, and he's going to potentially be like, oh, is this it for them? Hell, people were saying Tom Brady could be a Cowboy next year. Like there were like people were getting rid of Dak.
If you can't beat him, pay him.
Yeah, right. but like last week, I think last week everyone went way overboard on the Dak hate. This week, I think they're going way overboard on the Dak love. He is a good quarterback when he doesn't make mistakes. The problem is he makes mistakes. So I think
for stonks for the 49ers, because they haven't done that one yet. I'm gonna throw out George Kittle.
Oh, that's a big stonks for me.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think Micah Parsons is going to torture Dak somewhat, but I feel like Kittle.
Brock, yeah.
Brock, sorry, is but I feel like Kittle is still going to be able to get open, even though Parsons could match up with him well. But I still think Kittle is tough enough to have an impact in that game. And even if it doesn't show up in the stat sheet, it's because Micah Parsons is paying him attention, and that leaves a lot of doors open for the other many weapons that the Niners have.
All right, and that's going to bring us to the end of the show. I want to thank Mark once again for joining us tonight. Mark, anything you want to plug before you head out?
Well, yeah, I mean the NBC Podcast Network. Congrats, man! Y'all are on you got the new Notorious by Chance YouTube channel. This is an exciting new endeavor for you fellas. So congratulations on all your success, and looking forward to the rest of the games. And you can find me on all the social medias at Mark Ellis Live. And the new hour is going to be out later this year, so I'll keep you all abreast and come back and say hi when it's out.
Sweet, Mike.
Well, first things first, I was going to say I'm looking forward to the follow-up hour-long special about toe injuries. But
concussion sequel. We're gonna bring Will Smith back, and he's going to tell me about toe injuries.
That's his comeback movie. Yep,
it's comeback movie.
And you can obviously you can find me here Tuesday nights. You can find me every Wednesday night on What the Show podcast with AJ Lancaster, Justin the Juice, and my wife Bethany Deacon. And this whole month we're doing all of our Streamlabs are going to the Karen Volpe Preston Legacy Memorial Fund. So stop by tomorrow night and help out Paul Preston, who's one of our favorite people.
He's a great human being. And thank you, Mike, for wearing by far the best T-shirt of anyone today.
Jacob.
You guys can just find me all at Twitter and Letterboxd everywhere at Jacob London, and also at my podcast Lights on a Screen, where me, Taylor, and my friend Elena talk movies and what's new in Australian cinemas, because we don't get movies here.
I will listen when you talk about real movies.
You can also find Jacob this weekend pacing back and forth. Jacob, can you keep your phone in your pocket, because I want to know how many steps you took?
Yeah, right.
I'll wear my watch. I'll put it on and I'll make sure. Like I'll let you know, because I'm gonna be a bit of a mess this weekend, especially.
Yeah, for me, you can find me at Twitter, Instagram, Chance _ 91. Check me out on the podcast, Stories by Chance. We're going to be back to doing audio content this week, but for video stuff, Russell and I will be back live tomorrow at 9 Eastern. We'll be talking the Mandalorian trailer, Last of Us, all that good stuff. And thank you for watching, and we will see you all next week.
Holy shit.